Hello everyone. The topic for today is percents and fractions. Right now I want you to pause the video so that you can copy down your notes and then resume when you're ready to get started. So, the first thing that I want to point out is that the word percent means out of 100. So a lot of the things that we'll be covering today are centered around that concept. Let's look at the first example. Converting 3/5 into a percent. So we have 3/5. Because 5 goes into 100 evenly, it goes in 20 times, we can have something of a shortcut and make it into a fraction out of 100 using multiplication, multiplying both the top and the bottom by 20. So we wind up with 60 over 100. Well, because percent means out of 100, this is 60 out of 100, which means that it is 60%. Another example of that, 7/25. 7 over 25. Well, because 25 goes into 100 4 times, we can multiply the top and the bottom by 4. We wind up with 28 over 100. Again, percent means out of 100, so 28 out of 100 means 28%. That only works if the denominator is 100. If the denominator is not 100, then we can't just make the numerator into the percent. Sometimes we won't be able to make the denominator into, or the denominator will not go into 100. So in those cases, the first thing we have to do, much like we've talked before, is convert that fraction into a decimal first. So let's look at the first example of that. We have 1/8, and we have to convert that into a percent. So the first thing we're going to do is 1 divided by 8. Remember, the top number always goes inside the division sign. So we had a decimal and a 0. Now we're dividing. 8 goes into 10 one time. We subtract, we get 2. Add a 0 and bring it down. 8 goes into 20 2 times. Add another 0, bring it down. 8 goes into 40 5 times. So our decimal is 0.125. Since we have it as a decimal, in order to make a decimal into a percent, we have to move the decimal 2 places to the right. 1, 2. So that becomes 12.5. So 1/8 is 12.5%. Trying another example, 5/16. 5 over 16. Again, we have to divide to make that into a decimal in order to convert that decimal into a percent. However, there is one other method that I want to point out using this, and that is we can actually keep that as a fraction, and we would have 5 over 16 equals x over 100. We would use a method called cross multiplication, in which we're multiplying 5 and 100 and then dividing that answer by 16. I call this method the baseball and bat method because this is your bat, that is your baseball. Okay, but we'll talk more about that in class. So if we were to multiply, and I'll rewrite the fractions here, multiplying 5 times 100, we get 500 divided by 16. So let's get that out of the way. And the answer for this will be our percent. So 16 goes into 50 3 times. Bring down our 0. 16 goes into 20 1 time. Now we have to add a decimal and a 0, and we can keep adding those zeros. 16 goes into 40 2 times. We would get a remainder of 8. Which means that we're bringing down another 0. 16 goes into 80 5 times. So as a percent, 5/16 is 31.25%. Lastly, we need to talk about how to convert a percent into a fraction. So we talked about before, to go from a decimal to a fraction, we are going to move the decimal to the right 2 places, which means that to go the opposite way, we could go back 2 spaces. However, because percent means out of 100, we can take the percentage and just place it into a fraction over 100 and then simplify. So, for example, convert 70% into a fraction. Well, that means it is 70 over 100. And now we can just simplify. Divide both of those by 10. And we get 7 over 10. And there's our fraction. 35%. Again, percent means out of 100. 35 out of 100. Now we simplify. We can divide both of those by 5. Gives us, after dividing both of those by 5, we get 7 over 20. There's our fraction. If you have any questions about this topic, please bring them with you to class tomorrow.